Good morning, everyone. In this video lecture, we will understand how to use the law of parallelogram of forces. So basically, we will study the equation for the law of parallelogram. It's a derivation. What are the limitations of law of parallelogram? And what is the application when we solve the problem on the resultant forces? So what is the law of parallelogram of forces? So the law of parallelogram of forces states that if two forces or two vectors acting on a particle at the same time be represented in magnitude and direction by the two adjacent sides of a parallelogram drawn from that point, then the resultant force is represented in magnitude and direction by the diagonal of the parallelogram drawn from the same point. So we will understand this with the help of the animation. So this is the point. So we will take this point as a O. Two forces, one is force P and second is the force Q. They are acting simultaneously on the point O. So if you want to find out the resultant of these two forces, so here alpha is the angle between the two forces. So we need to construct one parallelogram. That means we have to draw this line parallel to the vector P or force P. Draw second line parallel to the force Q. So this will become one parallelogram. Then the diagonal drawn from the same point on which the forces are acting, P and Q. This diagonal, it will give the value, that is the magnitude of the resultant and the direction of resultant. And theta is the angle of resultant with respect to force P. So resultant is given by this equation. So R is equal to, in the square root, P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos of alpha. So here this force is P, the second force is Q. Angle between the two forces is alpha. So R becomes square root P square Q square plus 2PQ cos of alpha. And the direction of resultant, that is the R, with respect to force P, it is given by this equation. Theta is equal to tan inverse Q sin alpha. Q is the second force upon P plus Q cos alpha. Okay, or we can write this formula as, it is a tan theta. This is equal to Q sin alpha upon P plus Q cos of alpha. Okay, so in this way we can determine the resultant for two forces P and Q acting simultaneously on the point O. So law of parallelogram, its a limitation is it is only applicable for two concurrent forces. So for a system, that is for a concurrent system, if there are only two forces acting on the point O, we can determine the resultant by using the law of parallelogram. So let us see the derivation for this equation R and theta. So here I have taken two forces. One is force P, second is the force Q acting simultaneously on the point O. Okay. So we have constructed the parallelogram like this. So we have drawn this line parallel to vector P, this line parallel to vector Q. Okay. Now from this point, let us take this point as a M. Okay. So draw one perpendicular line. So just extend the vector P and from point M, draw this perpendicular. Okay. So we will get one right angle triangle. So I will take this point as N. So here observe the right angle triangle O, M and N. Okay. So angle N is exactly 90 degree. Okay. So in the triangle OMN, which is the right angle triangle, we can use the Pythagoras. So it becomes side OM square is equal to the total length is ON square plus MN square. Now ON, this side is nothing but OP plus PN, or we will take this point. Let us take this. So the P is the force. So I will take this as a point S. Okay. So OS plus SN square plus MN square. So here OS is nothing but the force P. Okay. And what is SN? So SN we can determine. So this SM is nothing but force Q, because this line and this line both are parallel. Okay. So this SN, it becomes, this angle is same as alpha. So SN is equal to Q cos alpha. So if you use the trigonometry, so this is the adjacent side, and MN, this side is the opposite side. So it is a Q sin alpha. Okay. So OS is nothing but the force P, and SN is nothing but Q cos alpha square plus what is the MN? So MN means this side, which is equal to Q sin alpha. So it is Q sin alpha square. Okay. So if you expand this, so it will become P square plus 2PQ cos of alpha plus Q square cos square alpha plus second value is Q square sin square alpha. Now from this equation, you can take Q common or a Q square common. So in bracket, it is a sin square alpha plus cos square alpha. So we have the equation P square plus 2PQ cos of alpha plus Q square in the bracket sin square alpha plus cos square alpha. Okay. And the trigonometric identity is sin square alpha plus cos square alpha is equal to 1. So from this, we will get the final equation for OM square. So what is here OM? It is the diagonal for the parallelogram. So this diagonal, as per the definition, it is the resultant. So here R square is equal to, that means OM square. This is P square plus, now take this Q square. This value is 1. Q square plus 2PQ cos of alpha. Okay. And then if you take the square root on the both the sides, so it becomes R is equal to P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos of alpha. Okay. So this is the equation for a law of parallelogram. So for two concurrent force system, by using this equation, we can determine the value of the resultant force. Now, second, we need to decide the direction with respect to any one force. Okay. So just observe the same diagram. So here, this angle is theta with respect to force P. Okay. So if I use the tan theta for the same triangle, that is a triangle OMN. Okay. So what is the opposite side? MN is the opposite side. So MN, so tan theta is opposite upon adjacent, and adjacent is the ON. So MN divided by, what is the ON? It is the addition of OS plus SN. So it is OS plus SN. So from this, MN is nothing but Q sin alpha, and OS, this side is the P, that is a vector P, plus second, so tan theta is equal to Q sin alpha upon OS is a P, and SN is nothing but Q cos alpha. So this is Q cos alpha. Okay. So from this we get tan theta is equal to q sin alpha upon p plus q cos alpha, or if you take the inverse, so it becomes theta is equal to tan inverse q sin alpha upon p plus q cos alpha. Okay, so this theta, it is with respect to force P. Okay, so if you observe this diagram, we have taken theta with respect to force P. So this is how we can determine the resultant R for the law of parallelogram and its direction theta. So let us see the application to solve the problem on the concurrent force system. So this is the first problem. So here this screw I is subjected to two forces, F1 and the force F2. Question is determine the magnitude and the direction of the resultant force. Okay. So in the diagram, there are two forces shown. One is the force F1, which is 100 Newton. Its angle is 15 degree with the x-axis. Second force is F2, which is a 150 Newton. Its angle is 10 degree with respect to y-axis. Okay. Both the forces, they're acting at this point. So we can consider this point as the origin. So your first step when we solve the problem, we should draw this simplified force diagram from this physical system. Okay. So first take the origin. Now draw one reference axis, which is your x-axis. Draw the vertical axis, which is the y-axis. Now show the force F1 and F2. So this is the F1. So this is equal to 100 Newton. So we can consider this force as a P because the standard formula given, it is in terms of P and Q. Second force, which is the 150 Newton. So this force is F2 and this is equal to 150 Newton, which is equal to force Q. Okay. Its angle given is a 10 degree with respect to y-axis. This angle given is a 15 degree with respect to x-axis. So question is, we have to determine the resultant of these two forces. So for the law of parallelogram, we need to construct the parallelogram. So we should draw the parallel vector to the force P and force Q. So first draw the parallel vector from this point. And draw the second vector parallel to force Q. So you can observe one parallelogram. Now this diagonal, it is nothing but the resultant value. Okay. So total angle between the two forces, this angle is taken as a alpha. Okay. So from this diagram, what is alpha? So alpha is equal to, this total angle is 90 degree minus 15 degree minus 10 degree. Okay. So it is 90 minus 25. So this is 65 degree. So this is your angle alpha. Now use the law of parallelogram. So resultant R is equal to, in the square root, P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos of alpha. So this is equal to, so here P value is 100 Newton. So P is 100 Newton. Force Q, this is equal to 150 Newton. So this is 100 square plus 150 square plus 2 into 100 into 150 into cos of alpha is 65 degree. Okay, so just solve this and get the value of resultant force. So the resultant force is 212.55 Newton. Now next we have to determine the direction. So question is determine the magnitude and the direction of the resultant force. So direction, its a formula is theta, which is equal to tan inverse. It is a q sine alpha upon p plus q cos alpha. Okay. So this theta angle, it is taken with respect to force P. That means if you find out the theta, that angle will be with respect to force P. So this angle is theta. Okay. So put the value of Q, alpha and the force P. So tan inverse, this is equal to, the Q is 150. So it is a 150 sine alpha is 65 divided by the force P is 100 plus 150 cos 65. Okay. So solve this and get the value for theta. So theta, this is equal to 37.8413 degree. So your final answer is resultant R is equal to 212.55 Newton, and its angle theta, this is equal to 37.84, and this is with respect to force P. Okay, so we should mention the angle taken with respect to force P. So this is how you can solve the problem by using the law of parallelogram for two concurrent force system. So let us see the second problem. So here, determine the magnitude and the component of the force F and the magnitude of the resultant force Fr if Fr is directed along the positive y-axis. Okay. So what is given? One force is given. Just take the unit in Newton only. So it is a 200 Newton. So let us take the force as a P. The unknown force is F. So consider this force as a Q. Okay. So there are two forces. One is force P, which is a 200 Newton. Second force Q, which is the F, it is the unknown force. And the resultant of these two forces, that is the R, it is given as a Fr. Okay, this is also unknown. What is given? Angle of two forces are given. So these are the two components. So if R is the resultant, this resultant has a two component or two parts. One is force P, which is a 200 Newton. Second is the force Q, which is nothing but the F. And this resultant is given as a Fr. So we have to determine this Fr and the force F by using the law of parallelogram of forces. So just draw the first simplified force diagram. So this is the point of concurrency. Let us take this point as O. Construct a reference axis. So this is the x-axis. This is y-axis. Now show the given forces with the given angles. So first is the force P, which is 200 Newton. The second force is a force Q, which is the F, and this is the unknown force. So we need to determine this value F. Now here angle given for the force P is 30 degree with respect to positive x-axis. For the force Q, angle given is 45 degree with respect to positive y-axis. Okay. So whenever we use the law of parallelogram, our formula is r is equal to, in the square root, p square plus q square plus 2pq cos of alpha. Okay. So we need force P, force Q, and the angle between the two forces. So here the total angle between these two forces. So this angle is, so this is 90 minus 30. So this angle is 60 and this is 45 degree. Okay. So alpha here, this is 60 plus 45 degree. So this is equal to 105. Now what is condition given? The FR, that means the resultant, is directed along the positive y-axis. That means in the problem, direction of resultant is directly given. Okay. So if you find out the resultant of these two forces, the resultant will be directed exactly in the positive y direction. So this is the resultant direction. Okay. So as per the law of parallelogram, if I construct the parallelogram, so draw a line parallel to force P and draw second line parallel to force Q. So this is how the parallelogram will look like. Okay. And this is the resultant. So this is the R. Now use this law of parallelogram to find out the R, and second is the force Q. So we have total two unknowns. One is the resultant and second is the component of the resultant, which is the force Q. So to determine two unknowns, we must have two equations. So this is the first equation, and the second equation is for theta, which is equal to tan inverse it is q sine alpha upon p plus q cos alpha. Now refer the first equation, that is for the resultant. So resultant R, this is equal to, in the square root, P is 200 plus Q is the unknown force. So Q square plus 2 into 200 into force Q and cos of alpha, which is the 105. Okay. Just you can square both the sides. So we will get the R square is equal to this 200 square plus Q square plus 400 cos 105 . So it is minus 103.52 into force Q. Okay, so you can take this equation 1. Now refer the second equation, that is for theta. So theta is nothing but the angle with respect to force P. So that angle is known. So this is your theta. So you can refer the standard formula. Okay. So theta here is 60 degree. This is equal to tan inverse. Unknown value is force Q. So which is the second force, sine 105 divided by P is the known force, which is the 200 plus Q cos 105. Okay. Now just simplify this equation. So you will get 60 into 200 cos 105. This is minus 0.26 into force Q. This is equal to sorry, just we should take this tan 60. So take this inverse, so it becomes tan 60. So I will write here tan 60, this is equal to q sine 105 divided by 200 plus q cos 105. So this is equal to tan 60 into this complete value. So this is 1.73 into 200 and cos 105 is minus 0.26 into 4 q. This is equal to sine 105. This is 0.97 into q. Okay. Now just take this term on the right hand side. So this is 1.73 into 200. So this is 346 minus 1.73 into 0.26. So this is 0.45 into q. This is equal to 0.97 into q. Take minus 0.45 on the right hand side. So it becomes 1.42. So 346 is equal to 1.42 into q. And from this, q is equal to so this is 243.66. So this is the magnitude of the unknown force q. And next, put this value in the resultant formula. So you can put this value in this equation, or you can put this value in this equation. Okay, you will get the value for resultant. So R is equal to, so the resultant value R is equal to 272.295 Newton. Okay, so in this way we can determine the resultant and one of the unknown component, which is the force F. Okay, so resultant is 272 and the force Q is 243.66. So your basic equation is, one is the resultant and second is the angle theta. So in this way, you can use the law of parallelogram of forces to determine the resultant. Okay, now this second law that we use to determine the resultant is the triangle law. And it is also applicable for a concurrent force system having two forces. So this statement is, if two forces acting simultaneously on a particle be represented in the magnitude and the direction by two sides of a triangle taken in order, the resultant may be represented in magnitude and direction by the third side of the triangle taken in the opposite order. Okay, so here you can see there is one point O. On this point, two forces, one is force P and second is force Q. They are acting simultaneously. Okay, and the angle between the two forces is the alpha. So if you want to find out the resultant by using the triangle law, then we will show each force by one side of the triangle taken in order. So first take the P force. So this is the force P, one side of the triangle. Take this second force Q as a second side of the triangle taken in order. Okay. So after P force, we have to draw the force Q. like this. Okay. So the closing side is nothing but the resultant taken in the opposite order. So this is the resultant force. Okay. So if the two forces, they are acting exactly at the 90°. So if this is force P, this is force Q, then we can draw the triangle like this. So it will be a perfect right angle triangle. So this is the first force. This is the second force. So this is force P. Okay. This is force Q. Then the closing side taken in opposite order. So this is the resultant. So if the angle is obtuse angle, okay, which is greater than 90°. So this is a force P. This is force Q. So this vector is nothing but one side of the triangle. So this vector is nothing but force P. Second vector, we have to draw parallel line to the force Q. So this is exactly parallel to the force Q. So this vector is nothing but the second side of the triangle. Now this is your closing side taken in an opposite order. So this is the resultant force. So the triangle law and law of parallelogram, they are quite similar to each other. Okay. So now let us see what is the equation for the law of triangle. So for the triangle law, to find out the resultant magnitude, we will use the cosine rule. So you must have studied the cosine rule in the mathematics or in the geometry. Okay. So if you have one triangle, so let's take this triangle as a ABC. We know this angle. So take the angle as a theta. Okay. We have the side AB, we have the side BC, and if we are interested in the side AC, okay, then we can use the triangle cosine rule as side AC square is equal to the known side AB square plus BC square minus 2 AB into BC and cos of angle between the two known side. So it is a cos theta. Okay. So the same rule is applicable to determine the resultant by using the triangle law. Okay. So just observe this triangle, which is drawn based on this diagram. So this is A, B, and C. Okay. So we will use the same equation. AB square is equal to AC square is equal to it is AB square means first side plus BC square minus 2AB into BC cos of angle between the two forces or the two sides. So we need to take this total angle. Okay. Now here, if you observe this diagram, this vector BC, it is drawn exactly parallel to the force Q. Okay. So if this angle is alpha, this angle will be same. It is the alpha. Okay. With the force P. So this remaining angle, it will become 180 minus alpha. Therefore, formula becomes 2AB into BC cos of 180 minus alpha. So if you take cos 180 minus alpha, so it becomes a minus cos alpha. So it is AB square plus BC square. So minus minus plus, and 2AB BC cos of alpha. Okay. So basic function is cos 180 minus alpha is equal to minus cos alpha. Okay. So this minus and this minus, it becomes positive. Now put the value of AB, BC. So AB is nothing but force P. So it is a P square. BC is nothing but force Q. So it is a Q square. 2 AB is P Q cos of alpha. And what is AC? AC is nothing but the resultant. So we get the same formula as that of the law of parallelogram of forces. So formula is same. R is equal to, if you take the square root, it becomes the root P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos alpha. Okay. But in case of triangle law, we must remember this cosine rule. So basic is a cosine rule. And finally, we get the same formula as that of the law of parallelogram. Okay. So let us see how to solve the problem by using the law of triangle. So we will solve the same problem by using law of triangle. So here two forces are given. They are acting simultaneously at one point. Okay, one force is 100 Newton, second is a 150 Newton. So first step is we should draw the simplified force diagram. So take this point of concurrency, draw the reference axis. Now the first force, this is the force F1, which is 100 Newton. Then this is the second force, which is a 150 Newton. This angle is 15 degree. This is 10 degree. Okay. The question is, what is the resultant? And what is the angle? Okay. So take the angle theta. So as per the law of triangle, we need to represent these forces as a side of the triangle. Okay. So for the triangle, select one point. Show this first vector as a one side of the triangle. So this is the first side of the triangle. So this vector is drawn exactly parallel to this vector. So this vector is nothing but F1. Okay. So I will take this as A. So vector is the AB and is nothing but the force F1. At the end of second vector, we should start the second vector. Okay. So the force F2. So from this point, draw a parallel line to the force F2. So this line is exactly parallel to this vector. So this is the second force. So it is A, B, and C. Now the closing side taken in the opposite order, it is nothing but your resultant. So this is the resultant. So when we draw the triangle, our order is like this. Okay. Exactly in the opposite order, we should draw the resultant. Okay. Now you can use the cosine rule to find out the resultant. Okay. So for that, we need this angle between the two known forces. So here, if I extend the line F1, so this angle between the original two vectors is 90 minus 15 minus 10. So it is a 65 degree. Okay. So if this angle is 65 degree, this angle, it is 65 degree. Okay. So just observe here. If I draw one line which is parallel to this line, and if I extend this line, so this line is parallel to this line. So this is 65. So this angle is 65. Okay. So here this vector is exactly parallel to this vector. So this is 65. So remaining is 180 minus 65. So this is 115. Okay. Now use cosine rule. So by using the cosine rule, in the triangle ABC. So this is the basic rule for the triangle law. So what is the cosine rule in the triangle ABC? AB is a known side. So AB square is equal to, sorry, AC square is equal to, which is the unknown side. This is a AB square plus, second is the BC square minus 2 AB into BC cos of angle between the two forces. So it is a cos 115. So AC square is nothing but the resultant. AB square, so this is the F1 square plus F2 square minus 2 F1 F2 cos of 115. So F1 is given, F2 is given. So this is 100 square, 150 square minus 200 into 150 into cos of 115. Okay. So just solve this and get the value of resultant. So the resultant here, if you take the square root of this answer, then this is 212.55 Newton. So if you compare this answer with the law of parallelogram, we must get the same answer. So you can check the answer with the law of parallelogram. So you can see we have solved the problem by using law of parallelogram. So we get same answer, 212.55 Newton. Okay. So you use either law of parallelogram or law of triangle. Okay, we will get the same answer. Okay, so I hope you have understood this, how to use the triangle law and how to use the law of parallelogram. Only limitation for this triangle law or the parallelogram is we can use this only for two concurrent force system. Okay. Now the problem of two concurrent forces. So it can be solved by three methods. So the first method is law of parallelogram of forces. Second method is a triangle law. And the third method is your summation fx, summation fy method. Okay. So any problem, it can be solved by this method. So this is your universal method, summation fx and summation fy. That means if there are two forces, we can solve by parallelogram, triangle law, or by summation fx and summation fy. If there are more than two forces, then we cannot solve by parallelogram and triangle law. So we have to solve only by summation fx and summation fy. Okay. So let us see this problem by using two methods. One is a parallelogram and second is the summation fx, summation fy. So here two forces are given. One is a F1 900 Newton, second is 750 Newton. So first draw the force diagram. So this is a 900 Newton. So take this as a P. Second is 750 Newton. Take this Q. The angle given is 45 degree. So this is the alpha for the law of parallelogram. So the formula is R is equal to, in the square root, P square Q square plus 2PQ cos of alpha. So this is equal to 900 square plus 750 square plus 2 into 900 into 750 into cos of alpha. So it is a cos 45. So here resultant is 1525.48 Newton. Okay, so this is by using the law of parallelogram of forces. If you want to find out the resultant by the general procedure summation fx and summation fy, so this force is 750 Newton. This is 900 Newton. So when we solve by summation fx and summation fy, our first step is we should resolve the force. So you can select one point on the 750 Newton, show x and y component. Okay. This angle is 45. So this angle is 45. So this component will be 750 cos 45 and this component is 750 sin 45. This 900 Newton force is exactly acting in the x direction. So no need to resolve that force. Then write summation fx. So in the summation fx, first is the 900. It is positive. Second is the plus 750 cos 45. Only two forces. So the summation is equal to, so it is 1430.33 Newton. Then take summation fy. So in the summation fy, we just have one force, which is 750 sin 45. So this is equal to, this is 530.33 Newton. Okay. So if you observe the sign of summation fx and summation fy, both are positive. So the quadrant of the resultant, so resultant will lie in the first quadrant. So this is the R and this is the angle theta for the result. Okay. Now get the resultant by the equation square root summation fx square plus summation fy square. So you will get the same answer, which is a 1525.48. Okay. And theta you can find out by using the formula tan inverse summation fy upon summation fx. Okay. Just calculate this value. Here theta you can find out. This is equal to q sin alpha upon p plus q cos alpha. So actually it is a tan theta. Okay. And if you take the inverse, you will get the answer. Okay. So this theta, it is with respect to force P. That means with respect to F1. So in this way, you can solve the problem either by law of parallelogram or by using summation fx and summation f1. Okay. Only limitation is parallelogram or triangle law you can use for concurrent force system having only two forces. Okay. If there are more than two forces, you have to solve only by this method, summation fx and summation f1. Okay. So this is all about the law of parallelogram, triangle law, and the method summation fx and summation f1.